You are unable, and the Treasury is unwilling, to provide the resources for the defence of the nation. That is the damning statement that John Healey put in his resignation letter to the Prime Minister earlier this week. And coming from someone who the political journalists call the loyalist in terms of the support he's given to Keir Starmer over the last 2 years, that really is about as damning as it gets. And the lie, and I call it a lie deliberately, that the money simply isn't there is plain and obvious to anyone who gives even a cursory glance to the numbers. And so what I want to do is look at this carefully and explain exactly why this wasn't circumstance or economic reality, but a political choice. Now, I often criticise government policy, but I try and limit my criticism to the policy or the decision rather than the person or people. But in this case, I'm afraid there are quite a few people who are in the firing line and who, for once, I am not going to pretend to be fair-minded because I think they deserve it. So here we go. First and foremost, to give him some credit, Keir Starmer did actually try to give John Healey and the Ministry of Defence some more money. And he went to Rachel Reeves, but she said no. You cannot increase borrowing, I won't raise more taxes, and I'm not going to take money away from other ministers to give to you for this project. You're going to have to do it. And so the Prime Minister went with his begging bowl to all the different ministers in his government and asking them if they'll shave some of their budget to be able to give it to defence. So it demonstrates that the Prime Minister at least has tried to do something. I emphasise try because he's obviously failed. In the meantime, Rachel Reeves, going around behind his back, telling all the ministers to stand fast, to not give in to the Prime Minister and not give him any of their budget. And that has created absolute chaos. And that's not my word, that's the word from Downing Street as to what she's done. Ed Miliband, the champion of net zero, point blank refused to give even 1%, which would be about 600 million off of his huge 50 billion plus capital budget. And so the Prime Minister had to go back to John Healey and say, here you are, John, here's your budget for the rest of the Parliament. And of course, John Healey, being a principled man, and having been told, and having had the Prime Minister say all along that yes, we're going to do this, felt he had no choice but to resign. So how on earth did this come about? Well, there's a few things going on, so let's cover them very quickly. Firstly, it's ideology. You have an ideology that is dead set against military venturism and has been ever since Tony Blair. And in fact, he was an outlier. At various points in history, it's been Labour governments who have downsized the military and lots of Labour politicians believe that the best thing to do is to talk problems away. And if you have somebody who's willing to talk, that's probably a good idea. But when you're against the likes of Putin, I'm sorry, that doesn't work. And he only responds to a strong opposition. And if you're weak, he smells blood and he comes for you. And at the moment, we look very weak indeed. One quick thing. Harley here. Say hello, Harley. Has a quick request. Would you mind hitting the like button and maybe subscribing? Most people who watch these videos don't, and it really, really helps. Okay, that's it. Back to the video. Another thing that's happening is the net zero ideology. Ed Miliband's very popular within the Labour Party. Lots and lots of people agree with net zero, and they're not willing to sacrifice one element of it in return for, say, security. Now, this is something that's really important. Defence of the realm is the #1 priority for any nation. Before party politics, before modern democracy, going back to before the time of Rome, the unwritten contract between people and those that lead them is we allow you power and in return you protect us. And that contract is clearly being broken by the current Labour government. If you look at the numbers, the details of what the money has been spent on, we've got 14 plus billion on nuclear power stations that are being built in a hugely inefficient way and will be delivered decades late. We've got 9+ billion going into carbon capture with technology that frankly is not tested at scale. We've got 8 billion on GB energy. We've got millions more on research into nuclear fusion, which is unlikely to reach commercial scale until the end of the century. We have more money on warm homes and insulation, and all of these things, all of them are a political choice. None of them are forced. They are chosen by the Labour Party, by this government, and they have chosen to prioritise that over defence. So when the Prime Minister or when any Labour Minister goes on TV and says to the interviewer, defence is our #1 priority, scream at the TV, you liar, because it isn't, quite clearly. And if you think that perhaps once Keir Starmer goes, who clearly has lost any authority to get things done in the Labour Party, and we get in, say, Andy Burnham, he'll make things right, and he's made a few noises about properly funding defence, well, the rumour is that his Chancellor is going to be Ed Miliband. So do you think Ed Miliband is going to allow more money on defence? I don't think so. So good luck, Andy, if you get in, but you're going to be swimming uphill on that one, I think. And on that depressing news, I'll say ta-ra, ta-ra.